respond, follow the directions of your local health authority. Precaution, not panic.
Stop acting so small. You are the universe in ecstatic motion.
Prime Minister Imran Khan says that the representation of Balochistan and ex-FATA at top Senate slots will further strengthen the federation. The government has called upon members of the Election Commission of Pakistan to resign, saying the body has completely failed in making recent Senate elections transparent. Army Chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa visits troops of Lahore Corps in the field. General Bajwa briefed about operational preparedness of the formation, also interacted with troops carrying out maintenance of defences. President Dr. Arif Alvi and First Lady Samina Alvi received shots of COVID-19 vaccination doses in Islamabad. National Command and Operations Centre advises provincial administrations to take strict action against those violating coronavirus SOPs. A Rangers personnel, Roshan Ali, martyred and 2 injured in a cracker blast in Orangi town number 5 area of Karachi. In Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, Indian troops in their fresh act of state terrorism martyr 1 more Kashmiri youth in Shopian district today. Another 5 anti-coup protesters killed across Myanmar as demonstrators returned to the streets after the deadliest day since the military seized power. Cristiano Ronaldo breaks Brazilian great Pele's record of 767 goals in official matches. Those were the headlines for now, but for their details and live streaming, you can log on to our website. You can also log on to our social media handles on your screens right now. Stay tuned. Coming up next is Perspective with Maruf Hamid.
Faisal Mosque is the largest mosque in Pakistan. Located in the national capital city of Islamabad. Completed in 1986, it was designed by Turkish architect Vedat Daloke to be shaped like a desert Bedouin's tent. It is situated at the north end of Faisal Avenue, putting it at the northernmost end of the city and the foot of the Margala Hills, the westernmost foothills of the Himalayas. It is located on an elevated area of land against a picturesque backdrop of the Margala Hills. This enviable location represents the mosque's great importance and allows it to be seen from miles around, day and night. The Faisal Mosque is conceived as the national mosque of Pakistan and is named after the late King Faisal bin Abdulaziz of Saudi Arabia, who supported and financed the project. It is the largest mosque in South Asia and one of the largest mosques in the world. The Faisal Mosque was the largest mosque in the world from 1986 until 1993, when it was overtaken in size upon the completion of the Hassan II Mosque in Casablanca, Morocco. Subsequent expansions of the Masjid al-Haram, the Grand Mosque of Mecca, and the Masjid al-Nabi, the Prophet's Mosque in Medina, Saudi Arabia during the 1990s, relegated Faisal Mosque to 4th place in terms of size. Architectural wonders of Pakistan.
Margala Hills, the heaven of Islamabad. The abode of God, a place where you can explore your soul and meet power of natural elegance of mountains. Spread over an area of 12,605 hectares, the Margala Range, the foothills of Himalayas, are youngest hills with an age of 5,000 years old. Margala Hills are home to around 600 plant species, 250 bird varieties, 38 mammals, and 13 species of reptiles. Margala Range is characterized by many valleys, scenic spots, and beautiful water streams, especially in the monsoon months. Famous for their tranquil environment and lush green natural splendor, Margala Hills are a particular source of pride, harmony, and spiritual delight. For the residents of Islamabad, many of whom make it a weekly ritual to scale the various trails to Damanagova and Pir Suhara. Margala Hills send off its visitors with lasting trail of memories to relish in solitude and provide an escape from the relentless rhythm of life.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We'll be talking about PDM's political strategy post the election for Senate chairmanship. What are the ramifications of the results that have come in as far as parties are concerned, and particularly within the PDM, are there fissures? Are we seeing some fissures emerging within the PDM, the coalition of these political parties, mainly being PPP and PMLN? We'll also be talking about the relationship between the government and the opposition. Of course, at this time, whether it is possible to have a dialogue, if the government is open to it, if the opposition is open to it, are we going to move towards the long march? Resignations is also something that is again being talked about. Is that feasible? Is it going to be something that we can expect? All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Ahmed Jawad, who's Central Secretary Information PTI. Thank you for joining us today. Fareed Rais, who's Senior Journalist. Thank you so much for being with us. Ahmed Sab, Jawad Sab, whatever, if I can call you Ahmed Jawad or Jawad Sab, whatever.
It's fine.
How do you see the situation post the chairmanship election now? Do you think that PDM as an alliance, as a coalition of different political parties, what kind of a future can you expect for it?
Maruk, I see politics as a very fast-paced activity. And if somebody gets into a politics of protest and procession and, long march and all this stuff, it is very difficult to keep pace, and the longer it gets and the tougher it becomes for the opposition. I think now after almost 6 months, opposition is finding it difficult to keep pace, and this is what I feel the biggest dilemma. The second, like you asked, that after in post chairman Senate elections, what is the situation? I would say that opposition is now is not left with many options. In the past they had many options. They were talking about boycotting by-elections, they were talking about boycotting Senate elections, they were talking about resignations, they were talking about different processions in different cities, So there were a lot of things which they could keep repeating and keeping the audience intact. But now the time has reached, because if they have to do a long march, this is March. So the march has to come in March. I think it won't be feasible in April. So, and what about the resignations? And what about the strategy of People's Party, which they were very confident about, no confidence. So it has also gone into the air. So they are really in a very difficult situation.
About the Election Commission, that there is a lot being said today also. We heard what was said by members of your political party about the Election Commission. How do you see the development in terms of your relationship, of course, with the Election Commission? We've seen what the Prime Minister himself has to say about it. Now, going to court on this issue. Of course, the Daska election, the Daska re-election is also quite, right at the door, so to speak. Do you have your relationship with the Election Commission? How do you see that in the future?
Maruk, all institutions, whether it is NAB, whether it is Election Commission or any other institution, they are answerable to the Parliament.
Right.
And answerable to Parliament means they are answerable to the people of this country. So if an institution remains within the law and within the lines drawn for that institution, everything is okay. But if a party thinks that there is some kind of violation, there is some kind of bias, some error, some mistake, some misjudgment, that party reserves the right to protest, which we have done. The second step could be that we could escalate the situation to the higher forum. And in this case, obviously, it is the judiciary. And we can go there and we can follow the procedure, which is given by the Constitution. But in my opinion, this all should be handled and dealt and conducted professionally.
Do you think you will go there? Does it, I mean,
it is one of
something
the
that's
options.
on the cards?
It is on the cards. It is one of the options. But there is a decision in principle that we should not ignore what happened in the Senate elections, and the observation which we have made and which we think does not make Election Commission independent. We see some kind of bias they might have carried during the elections, and so it must be taken care of.
Right. Okay. Let me come back to you. Ji, Fareed Saab. Fareed Saab, let's hear your comments as a journalist on what's happening with the Election Commission. Because, you know, we are seeing two sides of the story. We are seeing also a lot being said about the independence of an institution, about the fact that, of course, with the Election Commission, there are those who are saying that the decisions taken were decisions taken by the Election Commission as an independent institution, and therefore the government's reaction to that. Is it something unprecedented? How do you see it?
Actually, it is the responsibility, either it should be any government, it is the responsibility of the government to strengthen the institutions. Unfortunately, we haven't seen in the recent past or in the past that any of the government have tried its best or did its part to strengthen the institutions. At this moment, I think so that yes, there might be some discrepancies on the part of the Election Commission of Pakistan. There was the directive by the Supreme Court of Pakistan, as there was the case in the Supreme Court of Pakistan, and the Supreme Court of Pakistan issued some directives that the Election Commission should take some concrete steps for the free and fair and the transparent elections. I think so that more than that, I believe that they should be done by taking all the political parties on board. At this moment, I believe that the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, which is the ruling party at this moment, it has the bigger responsibility on its shoulders. But on the other side, I believe that the opposition parties, the PDM, they should not focus on the long marches. They should not rely on the protest. They should not, though it is their democratic right to protest, it is their democratic right to move towards Islamabad. They should march to exercise their political right. But on the other way around, they should be worried once and for all that the electoral reforms, either it should be the National Assembly election, whether it should be the Senate election, or it should be the open ballot or the secret ballot. Everything should be discussed. Everything should be discussed in the Parliament. I believe that the thing should not go towards the Supreme Court. The thing should not go towards any kind of other platform, because the Parliament is supreme. It is the right of the people which is being designated to the elected members of the Parliament, and it's their responsibility to fulfill their rights. So I believe in this thing, as 2 to 3 days before, the senior ministers of the government, they believed in this thing, that now the opposition parties should sit and we should move forward for the electoral reform. And that's
something that's not being talked about so much now.
This is the need of the hour. The electoral reforms is the need of the hour, because you have seen Daska, you have seen the open ballot, secret ballot debate, and all those things. And if you want to get rid of all these things, because whatever we have seen in Daska is the worst kind of the thing what we have witnessed. It shouldn't happen. It should not happen in the future. And
right, let me come back to you, Fareed Saab. I'm going to go to Shoaib Shaheen. Ji, Shoaib Saab, in terms of what's happening between the Election Commission and the government at this time, do you think that there is a chance that the government may go to the Supreme Judicial Council? Is there a precedent for it? How do you see this development as a lawyer?
You see, if the government wants, or the PTI government wants, that they can proceed against him, they have every right to go to the Supreme Judicial Council, and the proceedings can be initiated. But they have to prove the allegations. If the allegations of misconduct are proved, then the action can be taken against the Election Commission. There are many, the proceedings, because one Rana Buland Akhtar, he was proceeded against, and there are many other instances, and some judges were also ousted. You see, in recent past, Justice Shaukat Siddiqui was also proceeded against. So there are chances, there are precedents, but the PTI government or the present government or the ministers who want to proceed against them, they have to prove the charge, they have to prove the allegations on the basis of which they can initiate the proceedings. So the allegations are the proof of misconduct. That is very important because they have to prove. They cannot shift the burden of proof upon the Chief Election Commissioner or the Election Commission. Yes.
Do you think, of course, that will be very difficult, considering, like you're saying, that, you know, proving those allegations at this time. And if that doesn't happen, in the kind of environment that it is now creating, you know, that kind of the narrative that the government is at this time giving out against the Election Commission, it will have its own ramifications, don't you think?
I think at present, I don't think there are serious charges of misconduct or there are serious evidences which can be sufficient to oust the Chief Election Commissioner. I don't think so that the evidence, so strong evidence is available with the PTI. So I think this is a political stunt, and the political statements are at least to have a pressure on the Election Commission of Pakistan, so that they should behave in the manner what the PTI government wants. I don't think at this stage there are serious allegations. If they have the proof of misconduct, they have every right to go.
Back to you. Please stay with us. Ji, Jawad Sahab, do you agree? I mean, the statement that Shoaib Sahab is saying that, you know, this kind of a pressure tactic against an institution, you know, is that becoming of an elected government?
Maruf, I would not call it pressure tactics. It's like that. There is no sacred cow. No institution can be called as such. There can be mistakes. There can be misjudgments. There can be biases. And so, if we have some genuine grounds, we have some genuine reasons, if we are convinced that the institution is not performing its duty as granted by the Constitution. So we have a constitutional and legal right that we can express our dissatisfaction and we can proceed accordingly. So I don't think so that it's kind of a pressure tactics. We have expressed our dissatisfaction.
But you're also saying you have accused the Election Commission of acting in a biased manner. That is some serious accusation.
It is. So if there are serious matters, obviously there will be serious observation.
Right. Before I go to Fareed Sahab, Shoaib Sahab, in terms of legal consequences, if you look at what's happening, these kind of allegations, if you look at what happened as far as the Supreme Court judgment on the issue of secret ballot and open ballot is concerned, do you think that, you know, the way, of course, it landed in the purview of the Election Commission, which is what the Supreme Court had said, wouldn't you agree?
You see, the Election Commission did not have a time. The Supreme Court, when the case was decided or the reference was decided, just few days before the final date of the election. So how the Election Commission would have made it possible that on one side the ballot should be a secret, and on one side there should be some technology should be used to identify the secrecy if it is possible. Then they don't have, I think, the capacity. Election Commission don't have the capacity, so they opted for the secret balloting. I think Election Commission was right in this decision. So because you see, the Supreme Court also did not confirm to this extent that there should be no secret balloting. So they applied the constitutional mandate, which is given in the Constitution Article 266, I think, wherein it has said that the election should be held, election of the Senate should be held in a secret ballot. So, according to the provisions of the Constitution, the Election Commission of Pakistan acted in a manner which they were obliged or legally bound to do so. So, I don't think they have committed any misconduct in this regard.
But has this ever been,
delayed the matter. Supreme Court of Pakistan delayed the matter, and just few days before they decided this issue. How they can manage it that on one side it should be a secret ballot and on the other side
Shoaib Saab, in your opinion, if this matter had been, I mean, like you are saying, if this matter had been, taken longer, or the Supreme Court had decided earlier, perhaps things would have been different, like you're saying. But has there been a precedent for the Election Commission itself, for any government to go against the Election Commission to the Supreme Judicial Council, in your knowledge?
In my view, I don't think there are some precedents against the Election Commission. There were many accusations, allegations in the past, but no one had challenged the appointment of the Election Commission before Supreme Judicial Council. I don't think so that there are precedents. And I don't think at this stage they have the strong evidences. They are only saying that the Election Commission is biased. If they had the only allegation of bias, even the biasness does not constitute a misconduct. That is also an important aspect. The misconduct has to be proved, or the corruption or misconduct has to be proved. So how they will prove it, it is difficult for them, I think. At this stage, I don't think they will go to the Supreme Judicial Council, because in that eventuality, PTI will not be in a position to challenge it then before a court of law. Because the Supreme Judicial Council, once decide the issue, they shall not reopen it again before any forum or before any court of law.
Right, okay, fine. Let me come back to you, Shoaib Saab. Fareed Saab, in your opinion, this might be mere politics, but if we talk about politics, what happened today with Shehbaz Gil Saab, and then the reciprocal effect of whatever had happened with the PMLN workers, what kind of politics is that? What's your opinion on what's happening now? Because we've been talking before also, we've been talking about intolerance in politics. We've been talking about name calling. We've been talking about cyberbullying, different political leaders. If you talk about, and that has not only stopped at, with the First Lady or Maryam Nawaz herself, everything has been kosher. There is the way that political, if you talk about the PTI workers, you talk about the PMLN workers, across the board, there is back and forth, exchanges which get very heated, which get very inflammatory, which get very, very, reprehensible at the very least. How do you look at that?
In my opinion, we are not setting a very good trend in the politics. Whatever happened today with Shehbaz Gil Saab and the court, I think so it shouldn't have been happened. Either it should be from the PTI side, either it should be from the PMLN side, or it should be from any other political party side. I think so we should create an environment, a healthy environment for the politics, rather than we should start hitting below the belt, rather than we should go on some personal basis, we should call the names or any other things. In politics, it is the name of the difference of the opinion. You might have the difference of the opinion. You can differ with someone. You should not agree with others' opinion. But this is not the case that you should start throwing eggs. You should start throwing ink on other people, because all the and whatever happened outside the Parliament House also on the day of the election of the Senate, whatever we saw with Dr. Musaddiq Malik, with the former Prime Minister Shahid Khaqan Abbasi Saab, with Maryam Aurangzeb, who else ever, what I said, it should not been happened. And I think so that at this moment all
do you
the
think it's a safe place now for politics for anyone? I mean, of anyone who has some respect, because we see people who have been in politics for maybe 25 years, 35 years now, saying that perhaps for anyone it's getting very difficult for anybody to.
You are very right, but the passage of the time, what I said, that we are losing the grounds. We are not making a very good and healthy environment for the people or for individuals to be the part of the political system of Pakistan. At this moment, whatever is going on is not a very good practice, and we are not keeping very good practices or the best practices in the politics. We should promote the best practices, and either what as you said earlier, either it should be on the physical side, or it should be on the cyber
bullying.
side.
Yes, the way we think.
Whatever you say, because we should have some kind of tolerance. We should tolerate each other. we should listen to each other. It should not be that if somebody is supporting PTI, then the other party should criticize or bully on the cyber platform, or if someone is supporting PMLN, or if somebody is supporting Maryam Nawaz Sharif, so the other political parties or the supporters of the other political parties should bully the people over there. So we should discourage this kind of environment.
Definitely. Ji Jawad Sahab, how do you see what happened? I mean, of course, you know, with what happened with Shehbaz Gill Sahab, it's happened before also, the ink incident with other politicians. But in terms of your exchanges, PTI and PMLN particularly, the exchanges have gotten very heated. There has been, you know, the animosity has reached a level where, like I said, you know, it's breeding so much intolerance in the political culture of this country at this time. What do you think will follow? I mean, retaliation across the board, because I believe some workers retaliated, and you know, there was an injury also on both sides now. We've also seen that Shehbaz Gill Sahab also has an eye infection because of the ink. So there is, you know, what are we looking at in the near future?
Maruk, first of all, I mean, nobody would justify such actions, whether it is from government side or whether it is from opposition side. But let's have a reality check that if we look at third world countries, the politics is always about aggression. It is always about lack of tolerance and acquisitions and, you know, all sort of things which otherwise we don't see in civilized world. And it is, whether it is India or Bangladesh or Pakistan and other countries. So in Pakistan, we have seen this kind of intense politics between People's Party and PMLN. And we know it starting from the 70s and until PTI as a third power came, and then the first and the second, they got together, you know, so the dynamics changed. So today, PMLN and PTI, of course, Punjab is the main turf, and they are fighting for.
But things had settled a bit with you know, the Charter of Democracy and all that, and then PTI came, and the container politics. You know, people are talking about that also. Do you think that's also bred more perhaps aggressive style of politics?
Maruk, in fact, we touched two extremes. One extreme was that kind of aggression which we saw in the past, and the other extreme was that the two parties, under the umbrella of Mifaq-e Jamhuriyat, they had an understanding, okay, you take one turn and then I take the second turn, you don't hurt me and I won't hurt you. I mean, this is no politics. I mean, politics means government and opposition. So who wins goes to the government, and the opposition role is to criticize, to judge the performance of the government. And if this is gone, then it is not politics. It is not good for the country.
Right.
So I think that is the reason, or that is the vacuum in which PTI came in.
Right. Okay. Shoaib Saab, you know, in terms of what happened as far as NAB is concerned, what's your take as a lawyer about, you know, the press conference, Maryam Nawaz said that, you know, every time she'd been called by NAB, she had appeared. And now for NAB to go to the High Court for her cancellation of her bail, how do you see that development?
I think today was important day in this regard. If the High Court was satisfied that there is no reasons to cancel or recall the bail orders, they should not have issued the notices to Maryam Nawaz. When they were satisfied that there is some reasons to issue the notices, I think there are chances the order can be cancelled or recalled, because there are two things very important. One is the investigation cannot be stopped in any manner. When they are saying that we have called her and she did not appear for the purpose of investigation and also did not submitted the relevant documents which were required by the NAB, one thing is this. And the other thing is they have alleged against Maryam Nawaz that she is abusing the process of bail, or she is abusing the concession of bail. So these two important aspects are at least for the purpose of cancellation of bail can be considered by the Honorable High Court. And
how do they feel that she is abusing the conditions of bail?
There are two things. One is that alleged that she is not appearing and she is not supporting, cooperating with the prosecution. And the other thing is that she is misusing and she is criticizing the state institutions in a manner that to create a chaos. So these two allegations are very important, and if they succeed and the bail order is recalled, I think there will be there are chances that it can be possible.
How do you see this? How do you see this charge as a lawyer of creating chaos by speaking against the institution?
I think I think in my humble view, there should not have been the reasons for cancellation of the bail. They should have been confined to the extent of non-cooperation and non-submission of the documents with the NAB authorities. So that should have been the sufficient ground, because now when they have alleged that she is misusing the concession of bail by criticizing the state institutions, that should be a separate case if they had, or the state institutions wanted, or the PTI government wanted, or the police or the other institutions if they wanted to proceed against her. They had the other charge or other allegation or other case they should have registered against her. If this charge this charge should not be combined with the NAB in this manner.
What does the NAB have to prove for this charge? When they say, as a lawyer, what does NAB have to prove? To prove this allegation that they have used, or this charge that they have put, that she is inciting, speaking against the state institutions and inciting chaos, like you're saying.
This evidence is sufficient when she says that there are state institutions who have manipulated the elections of the Senate, and her press conference is relevant. So the evidence is available. So the evidence, whether this evidence is sufficient or it is relevant for the cancellation of bail, that is the question. The evidence is available, but this evidence can be used by the NAB or not. So that is the question which the court has to see. Because
freedom of expression, the court has to balance that with this allegation and the proof of that. How, of course they have to balance that, right? Because everybody has that freedom of expression, right?
No, you see, the freedom of expression is something else. Freedom of expression is limited by law. It is under the constitution and the law. The freedom of expression, I cannot abuse someone under the umbrella of freedom of expression. Freedom of expression is available, but that is subject to law. The law does not say that the state institution, if you don't have an evidence against the state institutions and you are alleging against them, meaning thereby that is a criminal act. That is, if someone has an evidence that that she is criticizing the state institutions for some other purpose. You see the statement of Javed Latif. I think these kinds of the statements, that is not good for the purpose of, I think, politics or for purpose of sovereignty of Pakistan or for the safety of Pakistan. I think these can be considered by the state institutions or by the police or by the some investigating authorities. Because
Shoaib Sahab, has this charge been used before by NAB also, and is there some past precedent of somebody being convicted under this?
You see, Javed Hashmi was convicted on this case, of the similar nature case. So if the case is built or some case is registered in the same manner, there might be the conviction also. So I can't say that in this case that is relevant. So in my humble view, the NAB should have not used this issue for the purpose of cancellation of bail. There should be a separate case, there should be a separate FIR, there should be a separate proceedings, because NAB is confined only to the extent of the corruption cases. So they should confine themselves to this aspect. They should not give a loose ball to any political party by mixing two things in one case.
Right. Okay. Let me come back to you. Ji Jawad Sahab. Jawad Sahab, why? Why does as far as speaking out against the institutions is concerned, we're seeing the government also say things about the Election Commission. Then why is it so wrong for Maryam Nawaz to do the same?
I think I'll go back to the statement of Shoaib Shaheen Saab that freedom of expression and then the regulations which requires freedom of expression to remain within the law. So who is to judge? I mean, if I do it, I mean, if the government does it, then it's kind of taking a position against the opposition. So this can only be judged by institutions. And somebody has to take the case to the institution, whether it is election commission, whether it is parliament, or whether it is judiciary, and those institutions have to decide. I mean, otherwise it is a speculation, or it can be a biased opinion, which if you ask me, I will say that Maryam Nawaz's expression about the institution is not fair. It is accusing, it is allegations, and it is violation of law. But if you will ask the opposition, they will say the same thing about the government spokesperson. So this is the kind of, you know, thing which will continue to happen.
Ultimately the court has to decide.
Yeah.
Agreed. But do you think, in terms of talking to the opposition at this time, in terms of talking to the PDM, with the government now, after having won the vote of confidence for the Prime Minister, the chairman of Senate election, is the government in that kind of mood, or no?
In my opinion, I think after the chairman Senate elections, a lot of dust has settled down, unless there are
dust gathers after the long march.
Yes.
Yes.
So the March will decide many things, how the April goes. So, so I think it's a good timing that if there can be any initiative between government and opposition. But unfortunately, perhaps opposition has taken a position in last 6 months, and coming back from that position is kind of a suicide for the opposition, because they lose their narrative which they introduce to the people of Pakistan. And so coming back from them, it's kind of a, I mean, death for the opposition.
Then what
so
happens
perhaps they have to justify somehow that whatever the stand they took about 6 months ago, and they continued on that. So that is on principles. So it's kind of an extreme positions which where we can only hope for a resolution. But if you ask me factually, I don't see much chance. You know, like I said, March, and so long march is there. If they want to hold a dharna, the dharna is there. Then Maulana Fazlur Rahman, he's talking about resignation. He says long march cannot be successful without resignation.
I mean, you don't expect there to be resignations with the PPP, which is what we've talked about before also.
Yeah, PP stand on this thing is different than PMLN and JUIF. But I think I'm not very sure that after the setback of chairman Senate elections, what is the change in the thoughts of Pakistan People's Party. I think in the coming days you will be able to see that is there any major shift from their initial stance, where they made the announcement that we would like to bring a change within the constitution, and which was no confidence motion which they wanted to do. I think they have failed.
But that no confidence motion they can still do. You know, I will come back to you, Fareed Saab. No confidence motion against, if they are so sure about their own, you know, about their own members, they can certainly go for, still they have the numbers, go for that same vote of confidence against Sanjani Saab. But, you know, they have to be very sure about their own people.
At this moment, the things are very uncertain. The people who are once sure, the results make them very upset, and vice versa. The basic thing is this: that as the opposition, if the opposition believes in this thing, that they can bring the vote of no confidence against the Prime Minister, they can bring the vote of no confidence. They can bring the motion of no confidence against the Prime Minister. But it's up to them. But at this moment, while we were talking about the resignations by the PDM and SJUIF and the Maulana Fazlur Rahman and PMLN,
vote of confidence against the Prime Minister is concerned, now of course 6 months they can't. But I mean,
as far according to some legal experts, there is probability that they can bring the if they believe they can bring it. I'm quoting to Atizaz Hassan Saab. I was talking to him according to me, as for my conversation with him, and I asked the same question with him. So he said that the opposition can bring the vote of no confidence
against Chairman Senate or against
the Prime Minister.
Let's go to Shaheen Saab. Shaheen Saab, if you are with us, can you guide us on this? Is it true that the vote of confidence against the Prime Minister, once he takes vote of confidence, which he's done now, 6 months, the opposition can't move against him for 6 more months. Isn't that true?
I think I cannot say certainly. I have not seen now. So, but I think after 6 months, up to the period of 6 months, they cannot move it, and after 6 months they can move it. But I am not sure, because the taking of oath is separate thing and moving no confidence move is a separate thing. So opposition has every time, but the time factor I cannot say. I have not seen the constitution now at this stage.
Okay. Thank you so much, Shoaib Saab. Thank you for being with us today. Jawad Saab, regardless of whether they can, let's talk about the Chairman of Senate. I mean, of course, if they're so sure about their numbers, they can certainly move against the Chairman Senate, vote of confidence against him. But that will also be by secret ballot, and I think maybe that is one of the reasons we've seen the opposition not move towards that. Isn't that true?
I think they have expressed a number of options, and moving a no confidence motion against the Chairman Senate is one of the options. But at the same time, they want to move to the Supreme Court about their reservations.
Right.
So let's see which option would they like to exercise first. They have both options available to them.
But do you think they're sure about their members? Because we saw what happened with the deputy election also.
I think opposition can never be sure about the ability of their members to put the stamp correctly on a ballot paper. That's the problem. I think they need to train them.
That's why you were so, you wanted open ballot. The government wanted open ballot because they want to do away with all this gimmickry or whatever one can call it.
Yeah, transparency always helps. The questions always are raised when there is no transparency, and I think that was a principal stance of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf government, that if there is an open balloting, there cannot be any discussion that who was the presiding officer, who was the returning officer, and what he did and what others were doing, and the cameras and all this stuff. This would have not been there if it was an open balloting.
So
and that was
now
a simple
at this
thing.
time, we've seen the Prime Minister take vote of confidence. We've seen what happened with Chairman Senate election also. Is this a new beginning for the government at this time? Do you think that there will be decisions? Because we saw there were a lot of rumors about changes in Punjab, and that didn't really happen. Do you know if there are going to be significant changes within the government? Because there have been some criticisms against the government also. And, you've also said on my program a couple of times, we've seen other members of the PTI also say price hike, inflation, all of these issues are something that the government worries about. Will you change things? Will things change in the next couple of weeks?
Maru, even if there is no opposition movement and these incidents were not happened, I think after 50% of the time the government has passed, you always reconcile. You try to see in retrospect that what has been achieved, if there are any deficiencies, if there are some ways that we can improve the things, we can evaluate the team. So I think this is the time. After 2.5 years, the captain of the team would like to evaluate the performance, the objectives which have been achieved, the objectives which could not be achieved, so that the remaining 2.5 years, things can be made even better.
But why don't we see any change in Punjab, in your opinion?
For the time being, I think we were more battling on different, activities like opposition, by-elections, Senate elections. So, but I think now is the time when these activities are over.
You expect there to be more changes?
I think there should be, and there might be.
Fareed Saab, do you think that there will be? Do you think that the government itself is challenged by other issues of governance rather than the PDM now at this time?
Yes, The biggest challenge is the economy, the inflation, and about the people of Pakistan who are nowadays suffering with the high inflation, who are suffering with all kind of the issues which a common person faces. And at this moment, I think so, as Jawad Saab said that it's been half of the time been passed by the government, and I think at this moment the government should focus on reducing the inflation, giving some relief to the people of the Pakistan so that they can witness the change which was promised by the people of Pakistan. Yes, I believe in this thing that there are many economic challenges. The inflation, the dollar prices is at its peak, but the government can do something. And at this moment, as the Prime Minister said, we hope so that whatever the Prime Minister said, that he is now more focused on reducing the inflation. We hope so in the near future we will witness some kind of the decline in the prices.
Right. Thank you so much for being with us, Ahmed Jawad Saab. Thank you for joining us. Fareed Rais Saab, thank you for being with us. Shoaib Shaheen Saab, thank you for joining us today. As far as issues of governance is concerned, as far as issues of price hike inflation is concerned, certainly the government at this time is dealing with those rather than any real pressure from PDM at this moment. We've seen a bit of a seesaw situation with the opposition and the government, but at this time, perhaps it is a time of new beginnings for the government to evaluate and see what decisions need to be made in the interests of the electorate, in the interest of the people who have voted them in. And also one hopes that the kind of intolerance that we've seen today will perhaps be a lesson for the politicians to tone it down a bit, to realize that the kind of traditions that they're setting, whether it's PTI, whether it's PMLN, across the board are perhaps not going to work out for any political party in the long run. Let's hope that they can see that, they can reflect on that. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.
Islamabad, the capital city, bustles with politicians and business activity. It stretches out around the foothills of the Mughals. To many, Islamabad is just that, lush green views in a modern, urbanized capital that houses politicians, diplomats and the Pakistani elite. But it is while driving through the stucco gates that the line between urbanization and traditionalism blurs us into an eclectic blend of the past and the present. The alleyways that bend through the village hold remnants of a rather colorful, regal history. A tourist site today, the village was once a garden resort known for its natural springs. The historical significance of the city of Islamabad is unknown to many, and for this reason, the Capital Development Authority preserved Saidpur, a Mughal-era village located within the capital city. Through the periods of history that Saidpur has existed, it has been influenced by civilizations such as the Gandhara, Greek, Buddhist, Mughal, Ashoka and British colonialism. Saidpur village is said to be 300 years old, but the elders argue it is even older than most believe it to be. Saidpur's name originates from Sultan Said Khan. He was the son of the Ghakkar chief of the Potohar region during Mughal Emperor Babur's reign, Sultan Sarang Khan. The village was gifted by Sultan Said Khan to his daughter, who married the Mughal Emperor Jahangir, the son of Emperor Akbar.
मैं सन 30 में पैदा हुआ। इस गांव का नाम सैदपुर था। उस पहले जो नाम था वो राजा सैद खान हमारा बड़का था। उसने इलाका फतह किया है। उस दिन फतेहपुर बावली नाम था, गुरुद्वारा भी था, मस्जिद भी थी। हम लोगों के साथ एक दूसरे के साथ प्यार करते थे।
Later, the village was recognized as the pilgrimage site by the Hindu commander Raja Man Singh. In 2006, the CDA began remodeling project of the Saidpur village. The French government provided technical assistance in the remodeling procedure. The purpose of the preservation project was to give visitors a taste of the multicultural, multifaceted heritage of Pakistan. The initial cost of this cultural project at the time was estimated at 400 million rupees. French ambassador Régis Debelaine was very supportive of this initiative and invited French architect Max Bois-Robert. Bois-Robert gave his expertise to develop remodeling methods that would not only give the necessary modern upgrades, but also preserve the natural impact of the village. Extensive preservation work was done to restore historical sites such as the Hindu Mandir and Sikh Gurdwara. Mud houses were given an uplift to improve aesthetics. Workers toiled to conserve the traditional atmosphere by restoring stone walls and adding haystacks and horse-drawn carts. Today, Saidpur preserves the historical face of the Potohar region. Boasting old rural roots with a modern edge, Saidpur is a manifestation of the transition Pakistan is making in developing both economically and socially. Saidpur historically was a village settled by craftspeople. Today, the present generations have continued the legacy of their forefathers and kept their art alive in the form of handiwork.
ये जो बर्तन बनाने वाला काम है, मैं 10 साल का था उस वक्त काम शुरू किया है। इस वक्त मेरी 50 साल उम्र हो गई है यही काम करते करते। सैदपुर में 6 खानदान सारे यही गुजर गए काम करते करते। तो ये गांव इसी ट्रेन की वजह से मशहूर है। मिट्टी की ट्रेन जो बनी है ये 120 साल पुरानी है।
I think that it's amazing that they have restaurants here now, but they've still kept that, that original look, and the village is still there, and the people get to do something, contribute, just help the economy. I think it's great.
These doors, these windows are antique. They are rustic and beautiful.
The place is so beautiful, and according to architecture, according to designing, according to painting, all the people of Pakistan should visit this place.
Visitors can take in lush green views and pay visits to historical sites such as the Nomad Art Gallery, Old Sufi Tomb, the Hindu Temple and the Sikh Gurdwara. Many popular restaurants and cafes also line the entrance of the village to cater to the palate of visitors, with tantalizing local cuisines sure to stimulate anybody's taste buds. Preservation projects such as these uphold our heritage and establish our footprint in history. These places are our cultural assets, and we should take pride in the richness of Pakistani history. Saidpur is a must-see for all Pakistanis and foreigners alike. The world over, many have spoken for Pakistan, but it is these voices that tell the true story of this beautiful country. It is these places that echo the tales untold.